of the people who send their resume will never call the company back to find out why they didn't get a phone call.
Right.
And so what I did was I challenged the company that I sent it. I took the time to spend this expensive paper,
Yeah.
do my resume, did it professionally, and you still didn't call me regardless, or to let me know that vacancy was filled. So now I called you Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 9, 12, and 3 for a whole week, and I got a job interview that Friday.
Yep. Yeah, and to me that's sort of a tricky area as far as, because you don't know. You don't know what's appropriate.
Correct.
Now, bottom line is, who really cares if it's appropriate, right? You don't work for them.
Right.
Maybe you want to,
Right.
which is maybe why some people don't reach out. But if you never get an interview, you're never going to work for them. So who really cares how appropriate it is if it gets you in the door? But that can be a difficult thing. Of course, the same woman I talked to, she was complaining about the other side of it. What she was saying is, and she wanted me to ask y'all, why do people looking for a job ghost people they send resumes to? So she gets a resume, she calls the person to set up an interview, they never call back. Like, why? She's like, why would you do that? You've gone to the trouble.
Yeah, you waste your time. Yeah.
Right.
Well, and also too.
And also it's rude.
Right,
If you got another job, just let me know.
Right.
Yeah.
Just send them an email back.
Yep.
and
Hey,
say, blah,
never
blah.
mind. Yeah.
That's
You
true.
know, you should have acted quicker. I'm a good hire.
But guess who I hold accountable for that? The individual, the teachers, and the system.
Well, that's what.
Because you didn't teach that.
That's what she thinks it's the younger generation that does this. And she said they do it in their personal lives. You know, they decide they don't want to date somebody, they just quit returning their texts, right? Instead of saying, hey, you know what, it's over. I don't know. I try not to blame things on generations, because I know generation before me thought the same thing about us, you know.
But at the same time, I'm a 60 baby, so I'm watching the next generation. I'm watching the
Right.
I'm watching all of it because my son's in my
Right.
You know, and I'm watching and I'm looking at the way you was taught in school.
Right.
I watched the way the congregation and the religious people are responding these days.
Right.
Then I'm also observing the parents.
Right.
And so when I observe all that, I realize everyone is missing the boat because no one cares them, because everyone is so much is in a rush. And they're not making sure they check the box the correct way.
I'd say, yeah, and I'd say most people are selfish. I'd say, too, also, electronic communication sort of lends itself to that, you know. Like, you know, you got to think about it. Like, when I was young, we didn't have answering machines. So if you were expecting something like a job interview, perhaps, man, you were on that phone, right?
On that phone, that's right.
Whereas nowadays, you know, it's like you can't, if you're even half awake, you can't miss communication. So I think it's not nearly as important.
But also, too, they used to have these different programs in school when we grew up. It's called Junior Achievement.
Yep.
Remember that?
Yep.
Half these kids now, I bet you sit in this class, has never been in that program, which was a requirement for us as we was growing up.
Right.
Like I said, that was then. Now, they're not doing none of that. My stepson, he tried to, he filled out an application. Luckily, he brought 2 of them home.
Okay.
He filled out the pencil. Oh. And then he had all these gaps up on the application. I said, well, let me see that before you take that and turn it in. And I said, why you have these gaps in here? He said, because I don't know. I said, now you put NA, that means it doesn't apply to you, but you never leave an application empty.
That's right.
I learned that in truck driving school. That's how I learned it in truck driving school. They didn't teach me that in high school when I was in high school.
No.
And I passed it on to him, and he was like, thank you. I said, use black or blue ink. You never use a pencil.
Yep. See, and you know what is funny is actually we were going to talk about that, and that is, I'm trying to think. I think my dad probably told me that as well. Maybe that wasn't something I learned in school. But yeah, that the job application. So some jobs, even if you have a resume, they want you to fill out an application. There are what some people call hidden questions. Okay, yeah. Why are these areas blank? You know, that is a hidden question. Why is this so sloppy? Why did you use pencil?
How can you erase if I mess up? No,
Like-
that's why you get 2 or 3 copies and bring it home.
Yes. If you have to fill it out there, take 2 pens in case one quits working. You know, these are all things, like if you have to, oh, why isn't this complete? Oh, my pen ran out of ink. Oh, so what do I know about you? You're not prepared.
You're not prepared.
That's what I know about you. In fact, in this class, I recommend, you know, if you're going to do something like that, you know, make sure you have your license with you, even if you didn't drive. Make sure you have your Social Security card. What if they want to hire you right there?
They're
going to need those, right? Never, one of the quotes they say, never make it hard for someone to give you a job, you know? So yeah, that's exactly it. Don't leave spaces blank. Put NA. Write out not applicable. Whatever you need to do, write neatly. Write so people can read. If it says print, don't write in cursive. Of course, nowadays they don't teach cursive, but you know, because if it says
No.
In fact, they used my oldest daughter. I have kids 5 years apart. They taught her grade how to write their names. My youngest daughter didn't even do that. She just got her learner's permit. It looks like she was drawing mountains.
Wow.
Yeah. So I don't know how people have legally binding contracts in about 20 years.
I don't like writing print.
Yep.
Looks sloppy, but cursive.
So does mine. Yep.
But one of the things that I did in the military, if you have a poor penmanship, you need to get a book, and you need to start correcting your penmanship, because you're going to find yourself not having a job because of your penmanship. When they look at that application,
That is one of the
that's one of the
hidden
things.
questions. Yes.
There's 7 hidden things that's on your application automatically when you look at it. And for instance, if your hands is oily, right? They gave you a brand new piece of paper, right? And your hands are oily. And if they can see your fingerprint all through here and your oil, you're done. So there's 7 hidden things on this application alone by itself. And the thing is, many of you all don't take those free classes. Everywhere in the county in Georgia, they have free classes how to do resume writing. They have free classes. I've been to every free classes in Georgia since I've been home. And I look, and all people say in those classes, guess who's in those classes? People my age.
Yeah.
The rest of y'all are not, and you want to know why you're struggling. Because the hidden things are sitting right there in the application, and you already violated 3 of them already.
If you don't know, at least ask somebody.
Sure.
You know what I'm saying? 'Cause before I started school, I didn't know how to work a computer.
Right.
I just called
Exactly.
my youngest son, hey, can you pull this up for me?
Yep.
Give me 15 minutes there, I'll call you back.
Yep.
Thank you. Now,
Yep.
I'm good now.
Yep, that's exactly right. So you've handled your business very well. I've had young people, someone this semester, I didn't know how to use Blackboard. So you thought the best plan was to wait 2 months until I emailed you?
That's simple.
You know?
It's self-explanatory.
Yep.
You can't read me. That's self-explanatory.
Could be, could be. Okay, so we've got what a resume is, what its purpose is. Now, your resume should be 1 or 2 pages. If you're a young person, probably 1 page. And you may have to work to make sure it's not too skimpy. You know, if you're 17, you may have only had 1 job or none. And your resume would only be half a page. That's going to look bad. You want it to be kind of that full page. So you can add things. If you're in college, you can add what courses you've taken. Things like that, because you want it to be a page. If you're old like me, it's probably going to be 2 pages. Especially if you're going to include your references on the resume. And if you're old like me and you've had a ton of jobs, you may just want to list the jobs that are relevant to the field that you are applying in. You know, maybe you worked in restaurants throughout your 20s and 30s, and now you want to be a speechwriter, and you've worked for 2 different companies writing speeches. You probably don't need to put the restaurant work, or if you do, you probably don't need to put who your boss was and this, that, and the other. Just when you work there and the place is probably fine. That'll get your resume down to the 2 pages. That would be sort of normal for an older person. Yes?
For me, I've been in the military for 40 years.
So one job.
So I have one job.
Yeah.
But I have
Skills.
I have all the skill sets and all
And
the
certifications,
and
yeah.
the certifications.
Yep.
So I can list that. So I'm going to have 1, 2, 3. I have 4 pages now. So I'm only going to list the most recent ones. And
No, that means it's time to retire.
no,
Time to sit your ass
I
down.
still got more work to do.
Retirement.
I need to help out your young people because y'all getting on my nerves.
AKA retirement.
And just another general thing, you want to be prepared to submit your resume electronically because most business is done that way. And I had a question for a couple of my friends, specifically, when they hire, do they like resumes with a little color? Sort of different setup here? Or do they like them more traditional?
Traditional.
And I got a couple different answers. One had very specific things they wanted to know, which makes, sense. One said, they want all your personal information right up front, which it should be. They want to know how you're qualified, and that was it. That's all they cared about. Maybe your last 2 jobs. They're like, I don't care that you worked at Kentucky Fried Chicken when you were 16. Doesn't matter to me. But they didn't really care, except they hate orange. They're like, I don't want to see orange. I said, okay. So I think they went to the UGA. You don't like Auburn and Florida and Tennessee, right? Another friend said, you know what? I think it depends on what department you're applying to. If you're applying to the accounting department, yeah, maybe this. If it's the marketing, maybe you need to show some creativity because that's the field, right? A third person said, you know what? I never even see the resume. We use a headhunting firm, and they just send us a file summarizing the candidate. So unless I ask, I never see the original resume. They give me the information, but they don't send us the resume. He said, so I don't care. So, however that helps, I guess the answer is there's a bunch of different answers. So once again, just like you want to think about who you're writing to, you want to think about, okay, where am I applying? I try to update my resume every year. And if you have the information here, then you can change how you present it. It's getting the information together that's hard, especially the first time, especially if you're older, because it's a lot of information. I had the similar experience. I worked somewhere for 25 years. Getting a resume together when I decided to leave there, that was a chore,
That's true, right?
Especially because I didn't have one on a computer. When I had gotten that job, it was a typewritten resume, Let's see.
I would always suggest to my Marines to start a resume while you're young and have it be a continuous working document.
Absolutely. Yep.
As you achieve things, as you accomplish things,
Yep.
going and add to.
That's why I think, minimum of once a year, go through it and redo it. Take stuff off that's not pertinent, add stuff that you've done in the past year. You may have picked up another skill. You may have worked on a project that is important to showcase. One other tip, every word processing program you use, if you use Microsoft, if you use Apple, whatever it is you use, is going to have free templates. Maybe use those to get started. But the thing about those, so we've already determined your goal is to get your resume on the top of the stack. Well, if you're using the same template as the other 300 people, you have not differentiated yourself. Like this one, this friend of mine paid for this template. And I liked it. And she had actually just sent me her resume because I had liked her resume. And so I was able to adopt, her template that she paid for to my own uses. And actually it was like a nice pastel green, but apparently that is not good for people with color blindness, like red-green colorblind. So I had to change it to put it on our website. Okay, so yeah, use a template, get ideas from it, but don't necessarily use a stock template that comes for free with Microsoft Word or with Apple Pages, because everyone else is going to be doing the same exact thing. If you have a little extra cash and want to pay for, you can buy some templates, then do that. Or even I'm sure there's still resume services that will do that for you if you have some extra cash and feel like that might be a worthwhile investment, especially if they're going to give, the file to you so you can continually update it. I have no idea what those things would cost, but even if it was $50, if you use it for the next 50 years, well, that's only $1 a year, right? That's a good deal. Okay. So the sections in a resume, and I have not compared these to see if I've done it correctly, but the first section should be your identification, right? Your name, your address, phone numbers, and the email. So in mine, it's over here. And then you should have, an objective. What you're looking for, your employment goal. And that can be, generally speaking, I could change this and not the education, but maybe the skills and apply for any job I wanted to, right? Probably even keep a lot of this same language and plug in different words. What if I decided that, I wanted to work in landscape next week, I would just change some of the wording here. My education is my education. I can't change that. But then I would change up my skills, right? Maybe I know how to drive a tractor. Maybe I'm an expert at raking, Maybe I know a lot about pruning. Pruning is a skill. I don't have it, but I know. I used to work in restaurants, and used to be a sommelier, and there are some winemakers that are known worldwide as genius at pruning and actually almost bringing grapevines back to life by judicious pruning. So your objective would be next. I think if we see this one, we have our ID here. It even says it, objective right there. That's what I want. And then after that, you're going to have your education, and you want to put your most recent first. So that's what's called a chronological resume. There's also a functional resume, which would be more weighted towards your skills. For instance, if I was looking for a job in landscaping, my degree in education is probably not swinging that job for me. So I'm going to want to weight that toward my skills. Most resumes are basically a combination of the two. You're presenting your education and your skills.
I think the functional is the one that's least used.
Least
Used.
Used, yeah. Yeah, I would think so too. The only other thing, there's one that's called scannable, which I've never had to use, but it has to be set up on a page because human beings never look at them. And it's just, you email it, and then it runs through software. But yeah, so most are chronological with a little bit of combination of the function. So part 3 is your education, most recent education first. Like you don't want to put your pre-K and your kindergarten, especially in my case, that was years ago. No one cares. What have you done most recently? And then depending on what kind of experience you have, that would be next. Unless you're very young and you don't really have any experience, then you'll probably go straight into skills. If you're applying for a job as a paralegal, right, and the only job you've had was at Kentucky Fried Chicken, that's not really probably swaying the balance for you getting that job, unless you have something there to show, like I worked there every summer from the time I was 15 until I was 18 because I was such a good employee, they wanted me back, or I started out as the fry cook and I was the manager by the time I left. Then that might want to weight that more heavily. But if you don't have a lot of experience, what you're going to want to emphasize are your skills. Let's see here. When you're putting your experience on, or your education for that matter, on a resume, you just want to use month and year. You don't need the date, like I started on September 15th. The month and the year is fine. Some people, if you are older and have had a lot of jobs, then you may run into the issue of, one, if that's the case, you're going to need to explain why you've had a lot of jobs. Because some people will think you've got a problem. You aren't reliable, or you don't get along with people, or you're just flaky. You decide to quit. In Australia, and I think this gets to be less and less every year as they become more part of the global economy, but in Australia, does anybody remember Crocodile Dundee, the movie? And he went on walkabout, right? That was a real thing. In Australia, people they wouldn't just go walk around in the outback, but they would take extended vacations. It was part of Australian culture. So in Australian business, if I'm looking at your resume and I see that there is no break in your employment, and it's been 5 years, I'm worried that you're about to take walkabout. So I may not want to hire you and get you set up only to have you take a year off after I worked for 9 months to get you up and running here. So there's, once again, sort of hidden things within there. So if you have had a ton of jobs, you need to be able to explain that. It doesn't mean you're not hireable. It just means you're going to need to highlight that somewhere in your skills or in your objective. Why have you moved around so much? If you're switching fields, same thing. What are you doing? Why are you switching fields? And then obviously, if you don't have a lot of jobs, if you're young, you don't need to explain that, but you do need to highlight other reasons that you are more hireable than somebody else. If your resume is too long, if you're over 2 pages and you've had a lot of jobs, then you will want to put something like only list, instead of experience, put related experience, and just have the jobs that relate directly to the job you are trying to get right now. So that's one way to try to keep your resume under the 2 pages. And then you'd want to list your accomplishments, at your job, what you have done, especially your most recent ones, what you have done there. That's also going to set you apart. Under skills, so like here I've got course design, grant writing, instruction, lesson planning, and technology. So somebody in the education field would know what those things would mean. They could ask me questions from that. If it was outside of the education field, I might want to elaborate on those because people may not know what they mean, but once they know what it is, they'll be able to tell what skills they involve, right? So like in course design, if I were to explain that to, okay, well, you're good at planning things, you're good at managing large tasks, you're good at bringing things from different fields into one, things like that. And then in education, we'll have like professional development. What are you doing outside of just coming here and having class to get better at what you do? And different fields will have different things like that. Not all fields will, but a lot of them will. Professional memberships, in the education industry, there's a lot of conferences and things like that you can go to. Civic clubs, you mentioned junior achievement, but that's not a civic club, but things like Rotary, Chamber of Commerce, things like that. Even volunteering. If you volunteer at your church, volunteer in the community, things like that.
Certification, because your certification has a membership that you have to participate in.
Yep, absolutely. In almost any field is going to have some sort of certification, and even if it's not, like you said, a professional membership of some sort, or even a union, because through unions often there's continuing education and things like that. You'll want to use action words when you're describing your accomplishments or your skills. That's going to make it's going to describe things better and make them more convincing, basically. Let's see here. Any software, any commercial licenses, anything like that, you'll want to highlight. And then references. I have always included my references on resumes. In fact, one of the people I talked to that say they hate, in our old textbook that we used in this class, they recommend not. They said put, upon request, right. So this woman I was talking to, she's like, I hate that. Why would I be looking at your resume if I wasn't interested in whether or not trying to figure out whether or not I want to hire you? And if I decide I want to check your references. I don't want to have to call you to get the references. To me, once again, this falls under the category of don't make it hard for someone to hire you. Now you want to clear. The only reason I could even in the textbook it said don't supply references unless you really want the job. And of course, my first thought was, why are you applying for a job you don't want? Like, that's a waste of everybody's time. What are you trying to maybe practice a job interview? I don't know. But you want to clear with your references. Will you be a reference from you? I mean, you hate someone to call your reference and they're like, yeah, I wouldn't hire that guy. Nobody liked him. Caused problems all the time. So you want to just like if you were. I have known teachers that would say, I can't write you a recommendation for college. I don't feel like you really did good work here. So you want to give people the opportunity to decline rather than tell someone that's calling them that they shouldn't hire you. And so, for instance, if once you have been doing this for a while, you may have asked someone to be your reference, but maybe you've been working somewhere for 4 or 5 years and now you're going to look for a job again. You probably want to give them another call and say, hey, I'm about to send out some more resumes. Is it still okay if I use you as a reference? Because the only reason I can think of for not putting them on here is if you don't want these people to get bothered, unless it's absolutely necessary. But to me, that's still not good enough reason. I always include them. Just like I said, I am not trying to put obstacles in the way of people hiring me for a job. And as far as your references go, you want 3. You'll want a work reference. You'll want a personal reference. And then an educational one, if possible. It may have been, if you haven't been in college in 30 years, well, then it might be hard to find one. So in that case, maybe something from a community or volunteer field of your life. So okay, let me make sure I covered all the sections and said everything that I wanted to. Yes. Oh, you'll want to think about when you're job hunting. If your email address is I'm a fun guy 88, probably want to open a new email account. You want to appear professional, right? I love to shop at yahoo.com, okay? maybe so, but we don't really care about that. We won't hire you to do a job.
Dirty 77.
Yeah, exactly. Stuff you thought was cute when you were 15, it's not cute now that you're 25 and trying to get a job. Same with your voicemail greeting, right? You know what to do, so do it. Click. Oh, yeah, I know what to do. Not offer you a job. That's what I'm going to do. So you just want to think that stuff over. You may have recorded that greeting 6 years ago and don't even remember what it is, you know? So you probably want to revisit that. Make sure everything's up to date.
Also,
Social media.
that's about to mention.
All those pictures of you, funneling beers. Probably don't want those on there,
It's too late now. You can't take them down. You need to explain yourself if they ask you about it.
Yeah, and on some accounts you can delete things, and if they haven't already looked, it won't be there. So the time to do this, the time to look at your social media is when you're getting your resume together, not when someone calls to set up the job interview. And there's some platforms that you can't delete things. Other things you can. Yes.
I have a question. Like you said, social media. If I do something on social media, okay, every day I'm doing it in my spare time when I'm away from work.
Yep.
As long as that it's not affecting my job, why should somebody care what you're doing in your spare time? How about that?
Because you represent that company.
So
that hired you.
I think it would be difficult for me, well, not in Georgia. In Georgia, I can fire you for whatever reason I want. But that also means you can get unemployment for whatever reason you want, pretty much. But I think in the real world, it would be more difficult to fire you. Like if you put a picture on Facebook, you're tailgating at the Falcons, and you got a beer, and, cheers with your friends. Not gonna get fired for that, but it could be a reason not to give you a job interview. And that's not fair, because you're right. That's your personal time. Who cares?
Usually,
but
it has to do with, from my experience, it has to do with the three main political stances that you just don't want to involve that covered. Like especially working for the government, you don't want to say anything derogatory about the president holding the current seat. That's just not. That's who you work for if you work for the government. So basically, you're saying your boss is an idiot on social media. Or let's say that you have a stance against homosexuality, and you want to voice that, but your boss is gay.
Yeah, that's
that's what I'm saying. A lot of times, not being aware, have a situation awareness of how your words projected on a platform that is open to the world, it could affect not only your personal life and professionalism, it could affect your family. Your daughter or son might be applying to a school, and they say, well, her father feels this way, and he puts hate speech, so she might be that way too. So sometimes it's just best to keep private thoughts private.
I do like the way you put that too. It may not even be the company's approach, but let's say the manager of that department is a woman, and they're not liking all the pictures you put on social media of women in bikinis or something. They feel like that's misogynistic, and there's no official stance by that company. But when it comes down to two people, she's going to pick the other one. Same thing, with race. Same thing with religion. Same thing with sexuality. And you're right. These are supposedly although, the funny thing is, people like to compare social media to like a town hall, right? I can say whatever I want to say in public. Yeah, but usually your public's pretty small. And there's things you'll say in front of some friends, but not in front of all your friends.
Yeah.
But you just want to go do it in front of the whole world and not be held accountable at any way. And I agree with what you're saying. Go ahead.
You just struck something. You just said something then.
What's that?
You want to do it in front of the whole world,
right?
And not be accountable for it or take that up. But Donald Trump did it January 6th in front of the whole world.
He did.
Hey, that's
did.
his First Amendment right, freedom of speech.
Well, see, and people get confused with First Amendment. What the First Amendment says, the first 5 words: Congress shall make no law. What the First Amendment says is that the state, the government, cannot censor your speech, cannot take away your right. If you're in my restaurant and you stand up and start saying something I don't like, I can tell you to get out. It is my restaurant. The government cannot tell you to get out.
And he was held accountable. It didn't come out the way a lot of people wanted it to, but he was still held accountable. In order for you,
If he was held accountable, he shouldn't be charged.
I mean, they did
Put in
charge him.
jail.
He just was found innocent.
Put in jail.
Well, and
But he got to be found guilty.
he's
He
still
don't get on this.
No.
You can run somebody over and be found innocent.
he still might be charged.
Yeah.
He
Because
still
they
might
can
be
find
charged.
out
And
that
then
the person-
two of the police officers
They're trying to sue him now.
that got injured. So
Oh, no, they can sue him.
yeah, it's a slow process, and there still may be charges. We don't know.
No. The government has nothing to do with the person, the individual people that were hurt.
Right.
They will
Right.
do a claim
Right.
against him,
Correct.
and they will most likely win.
Correct.
But the government themselves, the only thing that they can charge him of is unbecoming.
Correct.
You know, and saying that he sparked this and sparked that.
Right.
Well, there evidently wasn't enough evidence, you know, to find him guilty to say that these people were going to already do that. That's what it came down to. That they could not prove.
I'm not blind. I said that on TV.
I know, but
I'm not blind.
you can't prove the mind.
That's right.
You
And
can't
well,
prove
although
what-
I will say there are a number of people who said I did this because my
Yeah.
president
Yeah.
told me to.
You're right about that.
So there is probably not a case
Cost of farm
that is
working till you get there.
closer to him getting charged than this right now. I think, and you know what? I think the new Attorney General is thinking this over, and who knows what he'll decide to do. But I think that it would be tremendously costly. You know what? I wouldn't be surprised too if people are waiting to see what he's going to do.
The lesson I
You
would,
know?
I would take from this is know your position
Amen. That's right.
and know what you can get away with.
That's correct.
Because you can Google me right now. You can Google Master Sergeant McBride, and you're going to find a huge write-up about what I said when I was in uniform about the R. Kelly case. But I knew my retirement was approved.
You didn't care.
So I didn't give a damn. I was going to say how I felt, and I didn't feel that certain things was this way, that way, whatever the case would be. And it blew up like it was on the news. And I knew my position, I knew where I was, and I spoke my mind, how I felt. And Donald Trump knew too. He knew he was on his way out the door. He knew that he had already lost. He knew. So he's like, okay, what's the worst they can do? Am I going to be broke? No. You know, so it's know where you are on the totem pole and know how your words and your actions can affect you. If you own the company, F.
Well, what's funny is though, you know, if you own the company, sure, except what if you want to sell it one day?
You're right.
And the thing with looking for a job, you never know who the person that is either doing the interviewing, doing the hiring, looking at the resumes,
Like Papa
setting up the
John.
appointments, or even working the front desk when you walk in. You know, that's why, and I think it does seem that we've gotten away from some of that in the world of, you know what, I need to treat people well because I never know when I might need something, not in a begging kind of way, but I may come across them in business someday, and I'll be sure happy I didn't make them mad or insult them, because they're going to be in a position, if not even to do me a favor, just to not do me wrong, you know, in revenge. And thinking about all this, that's what struck me the most is, and the way you phrase that too. You just never know, you know, even sports, right? You know, maybe you go on Facebook and talk trash about Tom Brady and how much you hate him and he's a cheater and all this, and then the person doing the hiring is a diehard Patriots fan, you know. And you would hope people could leave that at home, but some people can't. Some people can't.
But like you said, you have to know your platform. You have to know where you stand in that platform, and you need to know the rules of engagement inside that platform.
Yep.
Rules of engagement. I love it.
So the next thing I thought we'd look at is the cover letter, because every resume needs to have a cover letter, and because that's going to be part of your assignment. And so there's a pretty good one here. In your cover letter, and I just reproduced this one exactly the way I found it, which had sort of the heading like this. You know, if this was just a typical block letter, you might put your personal information over here, but this is fine. You might even have nicer stationery. You know, this is not super nice stuff here. Also, I will point out too, I would never, if I can get this to move, I would never not have a space here, but this was going to put this one line on page 2, and I didn't see a need for that. I just knew I would tell y'all, you have to quadruple space here so that you can sign this. That's just purely to save space. So, in your cover letter, it's a companion intended to showcase the connections between your qualifications and the specific requirements of this job, right? So you can have a cover letter, same kind of as a resume, but with each job, you're going to want to change it a little bit. You know, there'll be specifics that you will want to change. If I was applying for a job as a high school teacher and football coach, I would change things up as opposed to applying for a job at Clemson, right? 2 different situations. So I'd change things up even though I have not changed, my experience has not changed. I'm going to present my specifics tailored for that particular job, right? If the school is in the country, maybe I'm going to talk about how much I love the country, right? If the school's in the middle of the city, maybe I'm going to talk about how the vibrant urban energy, you know, really gets me moving. And I'm excited about being a part of that. Always try to address your letter to a specific person. Even get on Google if you can. You know, larger companies, it's going to say, maybe even anything from like large, small company and above. And that person may never even look at your resume. They may be the human resource manager for the whole company, right? But you can still put their name on it. You may be able to find out who it is at a particular branch, right? If it's Chick-fil-A, it's probably the manager, you know, of that branch, of that location. But if you are not able to find anyone's name that you feel confident putting on that letter, then you can say, like they've put hiring manager. I probably wouldn't use that. I'd use like human resource manager. I'd see what the name of their department is, right? And use that. One other hint, probably want to use, when you find a name, you probably want to use first name, last name. Dear Stacy Smith, because what do I not know about Stacy Smith? Right. I do not want to say dear Mr. Smith, and it's Mrs. or Ms., and now she's mad and not going to hire me. You know, don't make it hard for people to hire you. And especially, you know, it's one of the big things in today's cultural world, right, are the use of pronouns. Some people don't want to be called she or he.
This is crazy.
It is. I kind of get it in a way. I especially get it, and I think I've told you all this, in APA format. They don't use, when you refer to a book, you don't use the author's first name. You only use a first initial. And I was told that is so you cannot tell if someone is a man or a woman and discriminate that way. And I thought, well, that's pretty smart, you know, because there are people who even subconsciously do that. Supposedly, teachers call on men more than they call on women. Like if I was asking questions and you were raising your hands and everyone's got their hands up, supposedly teachers call on men more often. And that is not on purpose, I would guarantee. So there's this sort of subconscious bias that can be present. So if I don't know if a person's a man or a woman, I cannot exhibit that bias, right? So anyway, they've chosen to use Dear Hiring Manager. They've got the date here. They've got the address of the company here. And you're going to have at least 4 paragraphs. Well,
You have to?
No, not
you're going to want 3 minimum.
cover letter.
Yes.
That's too much.
No. It's going to be 1 page. Look at this one. This is 4 paragraphs, and it's 1 page.
One paragraph. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay.
Your first paragraph, you want to let them know that your intention is to get the job. Describe the position that you're applying for. Indicate how you found out about it. Okay? Please accept this letter and the attached resume as an indication in my sincere interest in the open legal assistant position at Garvey, Schubert, and Barr that I found on CavLink, the University of Virginia's job database. So in that first sentence, they have said their intention. They want this paralegal job, or legal assistant job. Where they learned about it, which is, like a lot of colleges will have sort of an alumni job board, right? So that's where they found out about this. So in that first sentence, they've taken care of the heavy lifting, the 2 things that you want to have in that first paragraph. Your intention, letting people know you know what the job is and where you learned about it. And then they actually start in with their qualifications. I graduated in December with a degree in history and sociology. Would like to gain experience in the legal field before I apply to law school. While reviewing your website, I was pleased to see that your firm operates in a wide variety of spheres. I am most interested in environment and natural resources and land use law, basically, which they do. So that is their first paragraph. In your second paragraph, you want to state how your skills and qualifications will make you a desirable candidate for the job. Be specific. Talk about your experience, your education, and your enthusiasm, right? 3 E's: experience, education, and enthusiasm for this position. Highlight your willingness to work. And then point out how you can help them. What are you bringing? Throughout my college career, the courses I found most interesting were those around such subjects as law, business, and land use. After taking a course in that field, my professor took me on as an intern. I worked in the environmental negotiations department. This included reading reports, analyzing data, conducting active research, contacting persons of interest to arrange interviews, and giving reports of my findings. So these are their skills and experience. This is what they did under this law professor. This is directly relevant to the job as a legal assistant. From my coursework and professional experience, I've developed researching, analytical thinking, and writing skills necessary. So that's just from their general college work. But see how they neatly phrase that? They didn't say, I went to college, or they're assuming that you know they went to college because you said that you graduated. They translated that college work into these specific skills: research, analytical thinking, and writing. So think about that. You've done all of that in this class, right? You had to do research for your career presentation and for the TED Talk assignment. You had to do analytical thinking. Is this TED Talk any good? Is it effective? Would I recommend it? And you had to write. So even on that one project, you took care of all that. I bet you didn't know you were doing all that, did you? So think about that. You can put that in your cover letter. You have worked on those skills just on that one assignment. In addition, I'm aware of the long hours and hard work that is required of the role. So you're saying, you know what, I know what it's going to take, and I'm willing to do it. I just don't think that this is an episode of Boston Legal, and I'm going to come in and fall in love and whatever that leads to. I know it's going to be hard work. I'm the legal assistant. I'm going to be doing the grunt work, right? No glory. I'm ready to dedicate myself to this company, and I think this is really brilliant too, in much the same way that I committed myself to being a varsity athlete. As a member of the swim team, I devoted up to 30 hours a week to practice, travel, and competition while maintaining my full course load at school. So in Ms. Williams' case, she could say, I'm ready to dedicate myself to this company in the same way that I dedicated myself to the United States of America in my 30-year career in the armed forces. 40-year career in the armed forces, you know. So think of what is it that's not on the resume, because he may or may not have put varsity swimmer on the resume, but what is it, 30 years as a truck driver? Almost 35. You know, the dedication, the perseverance, however you can make it sound good. You sat in a truck for 35 years getting it done. You didn't get bored, or maybe you did, but you didn't quit. You know what I'm saying? You learned how to make it happen, So what is it you have done that you can put in here that's going to let this person know that's who I want to interview, They've got something going on beyond just sitting in a classroom or just sitting in a cubicle. And then their third, and you could combine these and make one third paragraph. I'm eager to learn. This is basically sort of massaging the ego, right? Your company's so great, I really want to work there. And people are not above being influenced by that, especially if someone else doesn't do that. I'm eager to learn from the many successful lawyers there. I've noticed they have high peer review ratings in this legal database. Maybe you've done some research on your company and there's something on the company you want to work for and there's something that stands out about it to you that you can include in this. I really want to work the drive-through at the Chick-fil-A in North Decatur because I have noticed it is the busiest drive-through in Metro Atlanta. I'm the best and I want to work for the best, right? I hope you'll afford me the opportunity to become a member of your team. Thank you. You want to thank them. I can be reached via phone or email. Okay? So there. Super important. What if they read this and they're like, man, this person's good. I want them. How do I get in touch with them? Oh, I don't know. It's not on here. Next,
I don't have a question.
Yes.
You said you get in contact with, you said phone number or email.
You put both.
I know you should put both, but I'm the type of guy, I don't check my email. I don't look through that, because I refuse to give me a call.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? Because I don't have time to be struggling. Oh, when this came the other day? Oh, man, it's too late.
If you're looking for a job, you're going to want to check your email.
Every day.
Just because that's the way people do business
9,
now.
12.
Just like you
So
check your mail when you know a check coming, baby.
That's right. 9,
Right.
12, and 4.
Yep.
I can check my mail when I know the bill got to be due.
But that's, I get you, but that's when you got to change your habits. How badly do you want the job?
I'm just asking.
It's just so much business is conducted that way. You can apply to, get accepted to, and register for college without ever talking to a human being. It's crazy.
Me driving truck at the time, well, I didn't know nothing about email and all that. They did this to you.
Yeah,
When they sent them 12 home,
yeah,
when you put in your mailbox, you know what I'm saying? Okay,
Yep.
man, you go forth from there.
yep,
Because at the time, they don't want you to be talking to drive on your phone.
Yep.
I'm telling you to call my phone. I'm doing it for, hey,
Absolutely.
This is a safety hazard.
Yep.
Why you call me if you don't drive? You see the truck in motion, it's a safety hazard. Why
Yeah.
you doing that here?
yeah. Yeah, but I know people who will set up a separate email account. Like if they're going on the big job hunt, they'll set up a new email account. And that's all that's going to be in there,
You should do that. It's more feasible.
It's more clean, yeah. You know if you got email in there, it has to do with the job. You don't have to wonder. You don't have to worry that you missed something. I get such nonsense in my email all the time,
But I clean mine out Monday, Wednesday, and Friday.
Do you? I need...
I have thousands of emails.
Me too.
I'll say this.
I need to start over.
Let me say this. Mr. Reno didn't put the classwork in until Sunday. But every day, 9, 12, and 3, I check my email, especially for all my instructors, religiously. And when I didn't see anything on Saturday, I said, okay, I guess we're not going to have anything. But on Sunday, so let me roll back up in here. The Lord's day.
Next week we have class, right?
I'm sorry?
Good.
Next week we don't come to class, right?
Correct.
You're good for doing that. I like when you do that there. Late Sunday.
Yeah.
you do that. I got one instructor.
Yeah.
It might be 2:30 Monday evening.
Yeah.
They put it out there. They want it to be done by the end of the week.
Yeah. If I'm going to be late, I would let y'all know, like, something happened. And actually, what's funny is I actually did that stuff on Friday, but I was like, I don't want to send it out now. It's too early.
Got it.
So I came back on Sunday.
Why? Send it out. I don't have nothing to do.
And the other thing is, you can set it up to post automatically, but it won't send the email. And I like the email because you always get somebody, oh, I never look at the website. Well, first of all, come on. How are you going to do the work if you never look at the website?
Exactly. How?
But this way, there's no excuse. It's on the website, and I know it went to your email. So, you got it somehow.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So anyway, and speaking of website, this and the resumes are on the website. I think this is a pretty well done letter. I think there's a comma missing in here. Not a comma. I would have actually written, I can be reached via phone or via, and I probably wouldn't use via, I would have used by, but that's me. And to maintain parallelism, I would have put by with the email as well. And I think there's a comma missing in here. I can't
But you
remember
don't
where.
have to put by technically now.
I'm sorry?
Technically, you don't have to put by.
No, it's
'Cause
parallelism's
I don't
kind
see
of
that
a
many resumes with by in it anymore.
right.
You can reach that 404, blah, 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 blah.
Reach me what? Reach me.
Reach me at 4.
Oh, okay. Yes, you could do that. But since they
Started that
Yeah.
way. Right.
since they included phone, and I think they're just trying to be specific. Hey, this is my phone number. This is my email. But other than that, like I pointed out, there's a couple places where this is some really good prose because he has turned these things that are not exceptional into exceptional connections to this job that I think any of us with a little bit of thought could do the same thing, it all depends on how you phrase stuff, right? So just kind of keep those in mind. Like, what is there in my life that I can phrase in a way that's going to be a connection for this specific job and sound really good and separate me from the herd, so to speak. Let's see here.
You gonna do a closing letter?
I'm sorry?
A closing?
Yeah, just sincerely is fine. Is that what you meant? Like, as the closing?
Oh, instead of putting sincere, you say enclosed.
Oh, yeah, you could put in closing, sure. Although, in closing is more transition to a paragraph. With regards, I think that this is probably least important.
You know what I'm saying? We'll be doing a closing letter. You got the
Oh,
cover,
no.
resume, then closing. Okay.
We won't. Just the cover letter and the resume.
Okay.
And there is like you've talked about. I don't know if everyone was in here. Ms. Williams talked about following up via phone on jobs, and we talked about that. And you know what? As we talked about, the only fear with that is that you're going to sort of offend somebody. Because you don't know exactly when they get what their process is. When are they getting the resume? Who's looking at it? How does that all work? So if you mail it on or email it on Monday, and then Tuesday you're like, hey, why hasn't anyone called me? They might be like, bro, come on,
No, I did experiment, so I did it, and then I waited 2 weeks, right? No
That's fair,
response.
yep.
And after 2 weeks, I made a decision on 9, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 9, 12, and 3 to
Because
call.
you said 2 weeks was enough for me.
2 weeks it is enough time, yeah.
Give them enough, I gave them 2 weeks. And then after I did the 2 weeks, I didn't see an email or response, and I know they were still doing interviews because the window was still open.
Okay.
So then I decided, okay, well, guess what I'll do? I'll just call Miss Janice. Hi, Miss Janice, how are you doing today? My name is Beverly Williams, and I put in the application 2 weeks ago. And I was checking the status as have you closed those positions? And she'll say, no, we're still interviewing. I said, thank you. I said, may I call you back to see if I'm
Still in the running, yeah.
If in that RAM, if I'm not in that RAM, then I understand. She said, fine. So when she gives me the okay, I call back on Wednesday at 9 o'clock. By Friday, she knew my full name. By the following week, I got the job. But I told them I didn't want the job because I was doing an experiment. Because I need to determine how you all are treating people and my children as a whole. So I was doing an experiment because I do challenge the Fortune 500 companies. I do that to determine, are you doing all your best to get the best and the brightest? Are you returning calls like you should in email? Because I need to know that. But see, when I'm tracking for the government, I'm letting the government know that this company here has something, I don't think our soldiers need to put our eggs in that basket and make them successful. Let's find someone else. So that was one of my roles and responsibilities.
Yeah, see, I think 2 weeks is fair, and after 2 weeks, you got to figure too, you're not going to offend somebody.
Correct.
To where they'd be like, oh no, we were going to offer you an interview, but we're not now.
Right.
Because yeah, I think that's fair. If you don't hear anything,
Correct.
following up is absolutely fair. So not necessarily like a closing letter, but a follow-up phone call.
Right.
I guess ultimately if you can't find a phone number, which you should be able to find something. I guess it depends on the company. Then another email to the place that you submitted the resume to start with would
Or
be good.
you have the option of going there. I've done that too.
It's true.
I did, and I was in my full uniform. Then one time I came in my street clothes in a suit. And I just want to see the comparison.
To see how they react to you.
Well, not even that. I want to see if you can even find my information since I didn't hear. And so they worked with me and they was able to find it and they let me know. One of them says, you're overqualified. That was cool.
Okay.
The other one said I was qualified and you should be getting an answer in a couple more weeks, and I let it go. And then they did call me back in a couple of weeks. And I did have the opportunity to have that interview.
So when you went in your uniform, they said you was overqualified.
Correct.
No such thing as overqualified.
I know that.
Well,
That's
that's
what
what
they
You just
say.
gave too much information.
Yeah.
And sometimes things take people longer than they think.
True.
And it feels like, if you're looking for a job, especially the job you really want,
Correct.
then time is going by slow. It feels
Right.
like a really long time. Whereas to them, they're doing their normal routine on top of trying to hire people.
Sure.
And it doesn't seem quite as long to them.
Especially the government, they'll have jobs open for years. It's crazy.
I know.
Wow. That's the way you get going to apply for a trucking job. What they want you to do? Hold in the road and get it done safely. That's all they want you to do.
Yep.
That's it.
Well, I helped one of my soldiers. He's a photographer. He's very good at what he does. So I called Disney in Florida, and I asked them whether they have any job offers. They said yes. I said fine. I said this young man will come in for his interview, and he will be in his full uniform. My soldier went up there. He gave him a full presentation. He got hired. 25 years old, making 6 figures.
Wow.
And I told him, you better not make me look bad either. Because I'm the one who pushed that button. So, I try my best, and like I tell all the companies, I will challenge you all, because I need to determine, are you looking for the best, or you just opening your mouth just to be opening your mouth? Because you get so much money for veterans, and I'm going to make sure if you don't do it, you're going to lose that funding.
Okay, I see you, sir. I see what you say.
Even civilians, I will help you as well. But I'm just saying, you're getting so much money from the government. I'm that girl who's going to check that box for you. Will it go or no go?
This is why I like in the trucking business. Cause I deliver food and groceries.
Okay.
And it might give you a guy, young buck comes to the door. Don't know nothing about it. This guy can see the other lights, he don't even know how to bag them. And they want to send this guy with you for about a good month. Show him the road. Y'all gonna pay me extra?
No.
I'm not a trainer. I'm y'all employee. That's y'all job. You know what I'm saying? They're like, oh, look, okay then. Don't worry about it. Come on, young buck. Get out there. I took show the do's and the don'ts. Hey, you want to get over? Blah, 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 blah. And he was doing what I was doing. He got down to a T. It was like, the man got good customer service. He's good with the people he's delivering to, everything. They asked something. They short of it. I don't have a truck. I might grab out somebody else's pallet, give it to them, and I explain to how we did it. And we're going to everything gonna bring you. Get back in, paperwork good. How you do this such amount of time? But I'm not going no job. How y'all say go here? I'm driving this truck. I need to find the shortest way to get to A to B. And he did that. They were like, man, do you gonna go to trainer? No, cause y'all ain't gonna pay me no more. Nope. Let me just do what I do. I'm like,
But when it comes to an increase in salary, that's something you can negotiate with.
it didn't bother me. I just love the job.
Okay.
It didn't bother me none. Cause I see some cats coming up, and I see some don't come. It wasn't funny. Cause they out there used to holding the road, taking their time. Nah, we got to deliver that food. You ain't got time to be loud gang on your phone. Get that stuff off and get back. Cause guess what? You might be going out the day after next. You got time to get all day long. You tired? Oh, I can't come in. Get that stuff off and get moving. Let's go. Yeah. Hey, what? Without military wise, it's the same as business as me. Like in my field of ground, y'all be like, I don't say, hey, do it, but I used to love it. I used to love it. I used to make good money. I used to love it over. You gotta come to work, man. Yeah. How can I be? Yeah, I love it. But he's their own.
Well, we are out of time. Does anyone have any questions?
You said that's due after spring break.
Yes. I can't remember what the date is, but after spring break.
And you said, well, I got asked you earlier about the TED Talk, and then two classmates discussing and coming on there.
Yep, you'll need to comment on their project. And don't, like I said earlier, dear Jimmy, I love your work. I hope we can be good friends. Don't do that. Something serious. Yes.
Is that mandatory every time we do an assignment or what? Because I got two other classes. One of them say does it, the other says optional.
What, the discussion board?
Yeah, I want to know.
It would just depend on the teacher. So, you know, colleges in general love online classes, right? Because you can do more, right? If we're going to have you come in here, we're limited by the amount of space we have and the hours in a day. If you're going to take classes online, then we can do as many as we want, right? But the problem is, like, some of the best stuff we have done in this class has been discussion, right? That does not happen when you are online. So people try to figure out how can we simulate that. And what they came up with was the discussion board. And I don't personally, as I said earlier today, do not find that to be true with undergraduate students. It is just not very, I don't think you all get a ton out of it most of the time. Some people do. Some people make a real effort at it. And I know I don't get a ton out of it. So I have tried different ways. We've had some video discussions, which I think was a little bit better, but I'm still not thrilled with. So, you know, that's something I think about a lot, is how can we get to the thing that happens in here? You know, when people are bouncing ideas off of each other, and it makes you think of a question you want to ask, and you get an idea of how you might try something because somebody brings it up in class. So anyway, so some people just go strictly by the board. This is what we're doing with discussion boards, and you have to answer and blah, blah, blah. Other people are like, you know what, it's optional because I don't really find it to be that helpful. And like myself, I just don't use them much anymore. Trying other things to see what's going to do that. You know, maybe I'll assign people partners, you know, next semester. And so you will comment on this person. I want y'all to respond to each other, you know, 1, 2, 3, 4, like back and forth this week. And maybe that would sort of, yeah, and maybe that would sort of make things work. Yeah, you know, it used to be like in the 1600s, if you went to school, which probably meant you were wealthy. Speaking of debate, like you'd have to write a speech supporting one side, you know, pick a topic, whatever it is. You write a speech supporting that, and the next week you come in and you do the exact opposite. Because the idea is it's not the topic, it's the art of argument, and you need to be good at that. So, all right, we'll have a great spring break.
Thank you.
Hopefully y'all get to take a break from school for a little bit and That's true too.
Your class on Monday, do they interact like this? How we do on
They
Wednesday?
don't. In fact, I didn't have a single person show up Monday. I sat here, so I had my knee replaced in December. So I sat here in this chair and tried to drag myself around to strengthen my knee. Yes.
Well, now technically, if we didn't have this COVID, then we'd be in class on Mondays and Wednesdays anyway.
Next week is no class?
Yeah, from the 4th to the 10th, we're on spring break.
Spring break?
No school
Being
next
slow,
week.
isn't it?
Yeah,
Yes, ma'am.
it's on this internet, so.
If you want, I can bring it up on here.
Hey, did y'all know we have sexual harassment training we have to do today?
Oh, I didn't even remember. Oh.
We have sexual harassment
Yeah.
training due today for the whole school.
Y'all have to do that too?
They said that to us?
Yeah, I seen it.
Yes.
I thought that was just the employees.
I thought that's, yeah, I thought, wait a minute, let's go
Yes,
back
that's
now,
what
hang on. I thought that
Yeah,
was employees
I didn't
too.
even remember.
I didn't think it was for students, but hang on. That's what it said? I thought it was for the teachers. Did I read it?
All right, here it is.
Came up? Okay.
So, 3 weeks ago, the overall grade
Right.
was in the 90s.
Okay.
But I thought it was
The
for
other
the
week,
teachers, I really didn't think,
Week after that, it was like at 86.
Okay.
Last week it was at 84.
Right.
Now this week, you see,
Yep.
so I don't know.
Well, it'll change every time I grade something, right?
No, nothing has been graded.
Yeah, I just graded something yesterday.
Yes.
So it
yesterday.
changed.
Well, you know what, I'm going.
Right?
outside,
Nothing was
we'll
graded
find out
like the week
after that
before
question.
because
I
everything
grade
was
at
so
least
late.
one thing a week. And as I was telling the gentleman earlier, I have 5 classes. I have, well, I won't get into it all. So I grade things as fast as I can. But you understand how it works, right?
In a way, and
So,
this
okay, like
one-
these, once you turn these, or once these are graded, it'll change your grade. Unless your grade, unless you get an 89 exactly on this, it's gonna change your grade, either up or down. If it's lower than 89, your grade will go down. If it's higher than 89, your grade will go up. It's an average.
I understand.
Okay.
And for this,
Yeah,
it says right here that
Yeah, I think so.
Get this done.
86 overall value has been overrun by 76.
Late submission.
All right. If you remember, I emailed you this homework, and you emailed me back and said
Go to the meeting, I can go to the,
I should send it through the discussion board. The same night I sent
Take
it,
a look.
and I did not go back to check for the confirmation number, and I realized that it wasn't actually sent. So I was wondering if you could.
Oh, but you didn't tell me at the time.
No, I did not. I just
So you thought,
Yes.
when was it due? See, I tried to, and I think I've said this several times, the best time to let me know there's a problem is when the problem happens. You know,
Well, since the grade starts reducing, I start looking at everything.
no, I mean, if you submit something and it didn't work or whatever, the best time to tell me is immediately when you figure it out. You know, I have people come to me weeks later, sometimes over a month later, to let me know about something, and sometimes it gets to